Hello everyone, Varimathras, back during the Expansion Legion. He had quite some interesting things to say about Sylvanas, so I figured it could be fun to take a look at his story and see what connection we can make to the upcoming expansion, to the Shadowlands. But before we do that, let's first do a little bit of background information. A long time ago, the race of Nafrazim, or Dreadlords as we call them, they emerged from the turbulent realm of the Twisting Nether. For a while, the demonic lives were very good, cunning and manipulative. The Nafrazim dedicated their existence to mastering the arts of shadow magic, relishing infiltrating mortal civilizations, sowing unrest and turning nation against nation. As these societies devolved and crumbled from within, the Nafrazim would then corrupt the population, twisting innocence into new and horrific breeds of demon. The great dark beyond, it was their playground, until they were noticed by the Titans and their champion Sargeras. He was put on the task of stopping the threat of the demons, but though slain, they simply came back for another round. For you see, the demons can only truly be slain within the Twisting Nether, so instead, imprisonment was the way to go. The planet of Mardum was designed to hold them. The fun times for the Nafrazim, they were over, until Sargeras came across a new threat, the threat of the Void Lords. They had noticed the Titans bringing order to the universe, waking up more of their kind, and they were envious of their power. But what if they could corrupt these Titans, swing them over to their side? The fully matured ones, they proved to be beyond their capabilities, so instead, they set their sights on the slumbering ones. Like the Titans themselves, the Void Lords had no idea which planets might actually house a Titan, so they pulled the powers together and manifested the old gods into our universe. All across, they landed on planets. Some were empty, some with actual spirits inside. Some even saw the Dreadlords bask in their power for a while, and from them, Sargeras learned of these dark, devious schemes of the Void Lords. If they would succeed in their plans, the entire universe would be consumed. In Sargeras' mind, it was better if he eradicated the corruption of the old gods. Sure enough, this would mean slaying their own kind before they could awake, but life had sprung up in the universe before. Perhaps it would do so again. And to help him with his task, he liberated his former enemies, the demons imprisoned in Mardum. A simple choice was given to them: join his cause or be destroyed. And Sargeras, by this time, he'd figured out how to get rid of them for good. And so, the Burning Legion was formed, with the mission of burning away the corruption. Considering that the planet of Azeroth, it houses one of these slumbering spirits, and it's been infected by the old gods, you can imagine that this is a prime target for Sargeras and his forces. They showed up over 10,000 years ago, working hard to build a portal and bring Sargeras in so he could smite the planet. This War of the Ancients, as they call it, it will be won by the defenders of Azeroth, who managed to send Archimonde and the demons back to where they came from, as well as shut down the portal. Next, they tried to infiltrate the world's defenses by corrupting its guardian and create the Dark Portal. This one was connected to a whole different planet, Draenor, homeworld of the Orcs. Now the opening of the Dark Portal, that is considered to be Year Zero, and by this time, the Orcs of Draenor, they've already consumed the demonic blood. Their planet is deeply corrupted and they're desperate to survive. So it was that they tried to claim Azeroth instead, and in the process, weaken it for the Legion to take. Betrayal amongst the Orcs, as well as heroes of Azeroth rising up. It meant that the Legion once again failed. Failed their master Sargeras, but they didn't give up. Kil'jaeden, he got his hands on the Orc Nerzhul as he fled the planet of Draenor. The Orc had not exactly been loyal to Kil'jaeden, and for his crime suffered unimaginable torture at the Legion's hands. The Orc's physical body was torn apart bit by bit, but his spirit was kept alive, intact, and utterly aware of what was happening. A group of Dreadlords, Tychondrius, Balnazar, Devarok, Mal'Ganis, and Varimathras, they took turns subjugating Nerzhul to the most horrific agony. And the Orc soon begged for death. Kil'jaeden agreed to grant it to him, but only in return for absolute servitude as the Legion's new weapon. Death would just be the beginning for the former shaman. With his sanity cracking, Nerzhul agreed, and his spirit was passed on through death, reviving him as a spectral entity. The Orc's consciousness expanded 1,000-fold, granting him extraordinary psychic powers. The Dreadlords then bound his disembodied spirits to a specially crafted set of armor and a mighty rune blade called Frostmourne. probably one of the most iconic weapons from the game. And who can forget what Sylvanas did to the Helm of Domination? The Chronicles actually mentions that when the Dreadlords crafted Frostmourne, they'd shielded themselves from its actual power. For quite a while, people wondered why Mal'Ganis' soul was not absorbed by Frostmourne when he was struck down by Arthas, and this is their explanation. They made sure that the Dreadlords could not be affected. And then, in the next expansion, in the Shadowlands, we're actually going to find out where this crafting took place. We're going to play around with the Domination Forge. This, in order to craft our very own legendaries. Find out about the process behind it. Find out who the blacksmith is that was able to craft such powerful weaponry. Now, will they stick with the blacksmith being a Dreadlord, or will it be slightly adjusted? I can't imagine that many people would be upset if they change it so that the items were created in order of the Dreadlords rather than with their own two hands. But time will tell how that story is going to unfold. Regardless of who crafted them, the items were then locked in a diamond-hard block of ice to imprison Nerzhul. Off he went to Azeroth with a mission from Kil'jaeden. Weaken it and get the Legion in. Claim it for the might of the Burning Legion. But our Nerzhul would never forget what Kil'jaeden had done to him. One day he would make the Demon Lord pay, but for now he would have to play it carefully. As the Dreadlords, they watched him for any signs of disobedience. While highly intelligent and crafty, their cunning paled what Nerzhul had become to the powers of the Lich King. Masking the true depths of his powers, he manipulated demons. Over the years, he discovered what the Dreadlords feared most. It was Kil'jaeden. If their plague plans failed, the Demon Lord would punish them. Knowledge that he used to his advantage, as he really wanted to get his hands on a champion that could expand his influence further than just the Frozen Throne. Frostmourne was going to be key, as its soul-draining abilities, it would make any that pick it up bound to the Lich King. The Dreadlord's fear of failure gradually convinced them that finding this champion for the Lich King, it would be key to their victory. Believing that it was their own plan and not that of Nerzhul, he was allowed to break away a chunk of ice which contained Frostmourne. The blade was now waiting for its victim, young Prince Arthas Menethil. The tragedy, death and destruction that had hit his lands of Lordaeron, it pushed Arthas into following Mal'Ganis all the way to Northrend. There he picked up Frostmourne, just as the Lich King had planned. The defeat of Mal'Ganis, it infuriated Varimathras and the other Dreadlords, but they didn't punish the Lich King, believing his word that Arthas had not been fully under control. Now that he was, the Lich King promised, pinky promised, that the Death Knight would never again raise their hands against the Dreadlords, and on the surface, it seemed to be the truth. Their plans came nicely together, and Archimonde was summoned to Azeroth once more. Yet their defeat, it came through the manipulations of Arthas and his master. Tichondrius, he was slain, the world then banded together and defeated Archimonde. But all of that happened without alerting Varimathras and the others. Imagine their surprise when...
What? Who could possibly...
Greetings, Dreadlords. I should thank you for looking after my kingdom during my absence. However, I won't be requiring your services any longer.
Prince Arthas, this land is ours. The Scourge belongs to the Legion.
Not anymore, demon. Your masters have been defeated. The Legion is undone. Your deaths will complete the circle.
Never! This isn't over, human.
The demons fled into the Plague Lands and used their dark magics to shroud themselves from sight. Kil'jaeden, however, he did not stand idly by. When the Lich King dared to openly refuse his orders, he recruited Illidan to take him out. The demon hunter did his very best, but was stopped by his brother mid-ritual. Still, a whole bunch of damage was done to the Lich King, its powers were slipping away, and by extension, so did those of Arthas and their hold over the undead Scourge.
My will is my own once again. You Dreadlords seem to know why.
We've discovered that the Lich King is losing his power. As it wanes, so too does his ability to command undead such as you.
And what of King Arthas? What about his powers?
Though his rune-blade Frostmourne carries powerful enchantments, Arthas' own powers will fade in time. It is inevitable.
You seek to overthrow him, and you want my help to do it.
The Legion may be defeated, but we are the Nathrezim. We'll not let some upstart human get the best of us. Arthas must fall. The Lich Kel'Thuzad is far too loyal to betray his master. But you, on the other hand...
Hate him. I have my own reasons for seeking vengeance. Arthas murdered my people and turned me into this monstrosity. I may take part in your bloody coup, but I will do so in my own way.
I, for one, do not trust her. Her heart is still elven. She will never side with us. Don't be too hasty. She has great spirit, but her hatred for Arthas will ultimately serve our cause. Agreed. Well, if that's settled, let the festivities commence.
With the Scourge under their control, the Dreadlords chase Arthas out of his kingdom, right into the hands of Sylvanas. But she doesn't immediately take the kill. Nah. Not after what he had done to her. A clean death would be the last thing she'd be willing to give. And that would give Kel'Thuzad enough time to save him. While Arthas is now en route to Northrend and eventually merged with the Lich King, Kel'Thuzad was entrusted to keep an eye on his kingdom. Meanwhile, Sylvanas and those now free of the Lich King's control, they're trying to figure out what to do next.
Greetings, Lady Sylvanas. My brothers and I appreciate the role you played in overthrowing Arthas. I've come to offer you a formal invitation to join our new order.
Varimathras. My only interest was in seeing Arthas dead. I have no time for your petty politics or power-mongering.
Careful, milady. It would be unwise to incur our wrath. We are the future of these plague lands. You can either join us and rule, or be cast aside.
I lived as a slave long enough, Dreadlord. I won't relinquish my freedom by shackling myself to you fools.
So be it. Our reply will come soon.
You underestimated me, Dreadlord. Now you're going to pay. Any final words, demon?
Sylvanas, spare my life. I beg you. I can be of service. I swear it.
Just like a demon, you'd sell your brethren out just to save your own skin. I'm listening.
I know what my brother's plans are. I know where their forces are based. Just let me serve you, and I'll help you defeat them.
All right, Varimathras. I'll let you prove your loyalty to me. But be warned, I'm keeping you on a short leash. You've done well, Varimathras. You've led us straight to Deathrok's stronghold. But tell me, who are those humans?
Deathrok used his telepathy to enslave a top-ranking human warlord. I believe his name was Garabon or Gilithos or something. Human names all sound the same to me. Instead of stamping it out, Deathrok has taken control of the last pocket of human resistance. They maintain their own army within the keep.
Your brother is more clever than I thought. His defenses are considerable.
Yes, and with this paltry force you've mustered, a direct assault on his walls would be suicide.
I have no intention of assaulting the walls.
Then let's go before he...
My banshees will possess those hapless humans. We'll use them to open the gates for us.
You realize we'll have only a short amount of time before he discovers what we're up to.
Of course. If we strike quickly enough, Deathrok will never know what hit him.
I am Garithos. I have sworn to defend the Master with my life.
You poor, confused creature. No time.
Traitor! How could you betray us like this? We could have ruled this land together. Sylvanas has greater strength than you know, brother. I'll take my chances with her.
Strike fast, my warriors. Deathrok must fall.
The spell has been lifted. Is the nightmare finally over?
Stand down, humans. I have no quarrel with you.
What is it you want, elf witch?
We have a common enemy. The last Dreadlord Balnazar currently controls the capital city of your kingdom. If you help me kill him, I'll see to it that you get your lands back.
Why should we trust you? You're part of the scourge that drove us out in the first place.
Not anymore. My only interest here is vengeance.
Very well. I'll rally what's left of my forces and meet you outside the gates.
Come now. You have no intention of giving them their lands back.
Of course not. The humans are simply a means to an end.
You sound more like one of us with every passing day, my lady.
Watch it, Dreadlord.
You disappoint me, brother. Poor Deathrok must have been stung by your treachery. How dare you call yourself Nathrazim?
Let's see. I made one of your brothers my servant, and tore the other to bloody shreds. I wonder what your fate holds, Balnazar.
I'll cut out your tongue.
It's over, Balnazar. Varimathras.
Yes, my lady.
Kill him.
But it is forbidden for one of the Nathrazim to kill another. My defection was one thing, but this...
I require one last test of your loyalty, Dreadlord. Do it.
You wouldn't dare.
There, your business is done. Now I want you wretched animals out of my city before I...
Kill him, too.
Gladly.
And so, the Forsaken lay claim to the capital of Lordaeron, establishing a new kingdom in the city's subterranean crypts, dungeons and sewers. Within this undercity, Sylvanas and the Forsaken, they planned their vengeance against the Lich King, with Varimathras at her side.
I'm always on the winning side.
But not really though, as the Forsaken joined the Horde, and Varimathras offered quests to heroes, even led the Deathstalkers, who are Sylvanas' elite assassins. He was still very much part of the Burning Legion. Back then, from the Ashbringer comics, we already learned that he's aware of his brother Balnazar, already returned to Azeroth and infiltrated the Scarlet Crusade. If you recently played Classic, you might find it a bit odd that Varimathras actually hands out quests for Horde heroes to go into the monastery and slay those inside. That's probably because lore-wise, it was actually Darian Mograine that took care of his brother. Well, specifically, it was the corrupted spirit of his father, but that's a whole different story. For Varimathras, he played his part, pretended to be loyal, while actually turning some of the Forsaken against Sylvanas. Forsaken, like Grand Apothecary Putris, who was promised that the Legion, they would offer more rewards than the Banshee Queen. While her attention was drawn to the campaign in Northrend and finally claiming her vengeance, these two prepared to strike. With their newly developed plague of undeath, they unleashed it upon all those at the Wrath Gates. Horde, Alliance, Lich King and Scourge, all of them saw the might of the Forsaken, which meant that Sylvanas, she had some explaining to do. She placed all the blame on these two, told War Chief Thrall that she had been forced to flee her home in the Undercity after the faction of undead dissidents and demons had attempted to overthrow her rule. Like most good lies, Sylvanas' account of the rebellion in the Undercity, they contained some truth. Grand Apothecary Putris truly had attempted to overthrow her, and Varimathras truly was trying to claim the Forsaken in the name of the Burning Legion. But the plague had definitely been created at her direction. Sylvanas was willing to take vengeance against the Lich King at almost any cost, even by making a weapon as deadly as the plague. Whether she was aware that Putris and Varimathras were planning to use the concoction, it remained a mystery. Rumors persisted that she knew about the attack at the Wrath Gate before it happened, and her denials, it did not remove the doubts of her detractors. On top of that, we also have an interview in which creative director Blizzard, they said that the Wrath Gate and the Blight, they were all under Sylvanas' orders. Regardless if she wanted the Wrath Gate to happen the way that it did, her city has been taken. Arthas is still alive, so she needs help to reclaim it. Even the Alliance shows up. They take on Apothecary Putris, while Sylvanas and Thrall, they handle Varimathras.
Welcome to your future. What little there is left of it.
May my aim be true.
Too long. Tireless, endless planning. It will not end like this. One more time. The Master is near.
The Dreadlord is hard at work, summoning more and more Legion forces into Azeroth. No massive source of power required this time around. There's no Well of Eternity, there's no Sunwell as Kil'jaeden had tried, just raw strength with the Nafrazim. But concentration is required, and we're quite the nuisance.
I cannot hold. Destabilizing.
You have failed me, Varimathras.
1,000 pardons, Master. I will deal with these intruders myself.
Although never officially confirmed, even back then we knew that his master was not Archimonde or Kil'jaeden. He was going straight to the top, trying to bring in Sargeras. The voice file attached to this is actually called Sargeras and sounds similar to the voice that we hear in Legion. Back then, this was one of the 2 places that I know of where you could actually hear this powerful entity. There was this moment at the Battle of the Undercity, or in the Caverns of Time, if you let Medivh die.
Years wasted.
We are victorious!
Back to the twisting nether Varimathras goes, and for quite a while his fate was uncertain. On Azeroth, Sylvanas claimed her vengeance, decided to kill herself and got in touch with the jailer, a being that we're going to learn more about in the next expansion. She would then, at the start of Legion, be appointed as the new war chief. Once more, the Legion tries to claim Azeroth with its greatest invasion yet. But Azeroth has grown very strong. Heroes rise up and form mighty order halls, claim powerful artifacts. They fight back and take the battle all the way to Argus, home base of the Legion. Whereas the ultimate visual guide, it presumed that Varimathras was plotting revenge with his demon brothers. We also had data mining suggesting that he might become an NPC connected to the Order Halls, potentially the Warlock one. All of that, it proved false, as we found out in On Taurus the Burning Throne, the seat of power from which Sargeras drives his burning crusade to ravage the cosmos.
Witches! You call that torment? I've endured far worse!
I tire of that worm's babbling. Let me scorch the flesh from his miserable bones!
The fallen Nafrazim has spent his time here, paying for his failures. The delicate touch of the Coven of Shivara, they've been torturing him. The vindictive sisters have stripped away both flesh and sanity, leaving only a singular desire to inflict suffering upon the mortals who cost him everything.
Come then. We will trade pain for pain!
Look! The wretch struggles against the mortal intruders.
They quite enjoy the show, watching from high above, occasionally filling the cell with fire, frost, fel or shadow. Now to link it back to Sylvanas, this is what Varimathras had to say.
So, your alliance still endures. Longer than I expected, though she has already planted the seeds of its downfall. She is patient, that one. When your thrones run red with betrayal, when your holy places burn, and the shattered mask hangs above your hearth, only then will you know, and it will be too late. So, she found me at last. Sent her underlings to finish the job. Tell me, when she seized your throne of hides and bones, was your allegiance forced? No, I'd wager you surrendered it willingly, or were convinced you did. It matters not. You are blind to the darkness in your midst.
And where some back then speculated that this might relate to Jaina Proudmoore, he is of course talking about Sylvanas, the Shattered Mask being the symbol of the Forsaken, his story connected to the Dark Lady. But don't ask me how he would know this, the lore works in mysterious ways. Even Gul'dan in the Nighthall back then, he also dropped an interesting line.
Your pathetic horde will fall to dust. In the end, death will inherit this world. And she will be waiting.
As far as we're aware, the whole dealings with the jailer happened after Varimathras was sent away. Not to mention that claiming the throne of hides and bones, that didn't happen until the Legion invasion. But who knows, maybe to link it even further back, have Varimathras in on our plans. The whole part about the Forsaken taking over, our holy places burning, that didn't happen, or rather, that was prevented in battle for Azeroth. Of course, the threat of Sylvanas is still out there, so who knows what they're going to pull in the Shadowlands. For Varimathras, his story ended here, defeated by heroes, unless they wiped, to which he would say,
"Better that you died here, where she cannot claim you."
Or, if you win, he likes to quote the Banshee Queen.
Death claims us all.
But does it really for enough regime like Varimathras? Well, we know that, for example, the Old Gods, when we took them out on Azeroth, they didn't go to the Shadowlands, rather they went back to where they came from, the domain of the Void Lords. The demons could also not be slain on Azeroth. Even Sargeras had to build them a prison until he figured out that they can only truly be slain within the Twisting Nether, or places infused with Fel, places like Argus. Now, case closed, you might say. Varimathras, he was slain in Argus, so he's truly dead. But then, several demons, they have quotes linking to still being reborn. Even lines to suggest that it was the Titan spirit of Argus that is responsible for the resurrection to begin with. Which, if you think about it, it makes no sense, considering the prison that Sargeras had to build. People even took it to Twitter to find clarification. They were told to feel free to speculate. So, it's hard to say. Me personally, I would love to see a reunion between Sylvanas and Varimathras, but only time is going to tell. Who knows how Shadowlands is going to play out. But this is the end of Varimathras' story, at least for the moment. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!